Um, Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. It's nice to meet you. First question. So, welcome to interval interviews. First question is, how do you pronounce your first name? Because I've been telling my wife about you this morning, and I've been saying Michelle, and she says that's wrong. It should be Michelle.
That's right.
God damn it!
I will also add you the first person who's ever asked me how to pronounce my name.
Well, I think I worked out why I say it wrong. It's because of the Beatles.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot we can blame the Beatles for today if we want.
My father-in-law blames the Beatles for the entire ruination of music industry. They ruined everything.
Okay, maybe we should get into that at another date. I feel
Um,
like that's a long topic.
but Michelle, my bell. That's where I start.
Yeah, fair. I feel like people only call me Michelle when they're like trying to be silly, like to put a funny to put a fun little spin on it.
So it's Michelle.
It's Michelle. Yeah.
Okay. So the basic topic of this interview is generally things like why music, why jazz, why Scotland, what is being a musician like for you, and I would like answers to all of those questions that you're willing to give. Obviously, some of this is none of my business, so um, I'm fully prepared to be told to go away. But so the first question is, what got you? So no, jazz is a very broad term, and we're using it very broadly. But I know you
Yeah.
studied jazz at Humber.
Yeah.
So what got you into jazz? How did you get to there?
Um, where I was, jazz was like, I mean, first of all, I listened to some jazz. I listened to Louis Armstrong and like the CDs that I had as a kid were Louis Armstrong, like some greatest hits thing. Harry Connick Jr., big fan. Uh, uh, what's her name? Oh my God. Cannot believe I'm forgetting her name.
How you
Something's like a badass, husky
you've forgotten
voice.
someone like galactically huge.
Sorry?
You've forgotten somebody that's so famous.
Well, she's a Canadian piano player, uh,
Oh, Diana Krall.
Diana Krall.
Yeah.
Um, and then like through those three, started listening very vaguely to like Ella Fitzgerald and stuff like that. So like I was listening to jazz
Were your parents
before.
into jazz, into music?
My family's very much into music. I didn't know my dad, but my mom and I grew up singing in choirs
Okay.
and my aunts and uncles are all very musical. They all sing like perfect harmony. It wasn't until I got to jazz college and we were like studying ear training and things that I realized that other people's families didn't all sing in four-part harmony all the time.
That's wonderful. You see Sound of Music and think, yeah, so
Yeah, big deal.
that's pretty normal.
That looks like Christmas at my house. Um, minus all the lavish, you know, and the German. Is it German? Swiss? Can't
Austrian.
remember. Austrian, yeah. Yeah, so we did have a lot of music in the house. I mean, I also listened to like terrible music at that when I was younger too, but
Did
uh,
will you be willing to name any
well,
terrible?
not now that I've called it terrible, no.
It would be great if you did, though, wouldn't it?
Would it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
think I think disliking music is as important as liking music
It
because
is.
you need to sort of work out where you are and you need to and I enjoy disliking music. I mean, I will
I
listen
do
to it again.
too, but not in a filmed video format.
Yeah,
I'll
fair.
I'll talk about what I dislike with you at great length in person.
Okay, fine.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so lots of music, lots of actually, it was wild that I ended up working with Cross years down the road because we did sing a lot of that era of music in my house. So CSNY, Paul Simon, Joni Mitchell, Beatles. Those were like the most common heavy hitters at holidays and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like a lot of rich harmony in that music.
Yeah.
So that was all kind of infused.
Need to meet my wife. She's massively into harmony singing, and
Cool.
I think you would respect each other's craft.
Nice. Oh, cool.
I like to think that. Yeah.
And your wife is related to Tom Lyne's wife?
No, that's my sister.
Oh, your sister is his wife.
My sister is Tom's wife.
Right.
I
Okay.
went to McGill in Montreal.
Oh, no kidding.
And the first person I met was Tom Lyne.
Oh.
And at the time I thought I was studying music in Canada, but actually I was finding a husband for my sister. I was sent on a sleeper mission. My conscious brain didn't understand the mission. My wife is Jean Ray, who was in the Baby Sisters and was a close part harmony group, and yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I sang when the first year of jazz studies in college. I sang in a big band that was all made up of students. It wasn't part of the school; it was outside of the school, but it was all Andrew Sisters and
Right.
old big band stuff. I loved it. I really loved that music. But yeah, so I guess studying jazz was kind of the only outlet to study music that wasn't classical music.
Okay.
And even though I loved, you know, because I sang in a choir at church and stuff, and I really loved all those beautiful anthems and requiems and all of that, but I wasn't feeling drawn to study classical music. So
do you know John Green?
no.
He's an American trumpet player, composer who's moved to Scotland, and he's coming from a church background. And it's very interesting him talking about how his church and the music in his church kind of was his beginning for music making, you know.
Yeah. Matt Carmichael also recently shared something. He's such a beautiful musician, and was talking about how playing in church really influences. And I mean, without question, singing in that choir influenced not just.
He always comes up every interview.
Does it?
Yeah. Quite often people make a joke on what a horrible person he is precisely because he's such a lovely person.
Oh, he often comes up. I thought you meant playing music in church often comes up. That's
no, well, that has been coming up, but he comes up in every interview. But he's a wonderful human being. So you kind of chose jazz college because it was the only option really other than classical, which is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, in Toronto, that has changed a fair amount since I graduated, and it was changing as I was going there. Now you can study like contemporary music at the same school where you can study jazz.
Right.
And everyone's sort of around the same hallways and things like that. And there are a lot more programs just in general, you know, even like there's songwriting programs at universities now, which is like, you know, I'm of two minds about it. I teach songwriting and I'm of two minds about that. It's like, can you teach songwriting? But no, you can't really, but you can teach what has happened in the past and like certain styles, and you can teach certain processes to get you through certain, you know, moments in the songwriting process. So you could teach like method, but you can't teach someone how to be a good songwriter in the same way that, like, you know, I was talking to Mario actually the other day on the way to the gig about how when you hear someone who, you know, when you hear someone play music, period, it doesn't even have to be someone who you love what they do, but what you're hearing has less to do with their skill and their musicianship in terms of what they're capable of doing, and more to do with their personality as a human being and how they approach communication, listening, fear, how they approach dealing with fear in front of other people. dealing with fear in front of people who know them very well, dealing with fear and communicating, and like all of those, like improvisation is what always brings me back to the jazz like mindset is improvisation, not in a technical sense, because I'm not technically skilled as an improviser, but I do constantly, I'm deeply aware of the need to be able to improvise in general as a human being, as a person on earth, like with, you know, that when things come your way, how do you react? And that is a very deep skill to
You
be
could
able to communicate.
sort of as a sort of outlier thing that only nerds and jazz musicians do, but in fact it's actually one of the most, well, it's not in fact, but it's an opinion, but it's one of the most central human activities. And the emotional challenge of it, of dealing with your sense of who you are whilst in the moment, is I think it's central to just so many activities. And you talked about fear. I think it's dealing with fear or negative stuff. It really helps you to get skills around that. And I think that's a very interesting area. So do you regret studying jazz? Would you, if you had your time over again, would you have chosen a different course, or is it something?
No, I'm so glad I studied jazz. No, I learned so much that I never would have had. I've never been a good student. I've never been like a very disciplined person. There's no way I would have learned all the richness that I learned in terms of harmony, in terms of groove. There was one really important day, and of course I can't remember his name right now. Santos, Jovito Santos, Brazilian piano player. He like, it's so funny because I don't even listen to him, but that changed it like was a pivot point. He came and did a clinic at Humber. We had amazing clinicians. We had just like, I feel we were so lucky at that school. We just, if like any heavy hitters came to Toronto, they did a clinic in Toronto, at Humber. And Jovito Santos came and he was playing, you know, Brazilian grooves with blues.
What does he play?
Piano player.
Yeah.
And I was just completely awestruck. And I went to the practice room and tried to lift basically what I had heard him playing. And that set me on this path of like, not just groove within piano and like finding cool parts that are like intricate, but also incorporating like weird meter through that, but still making it feel good. How do you make it feel good for your brain, but also just feel intuitive as a listener?
So you're how old are you now?
37.
So you're having what seems to be a pretty amazing career. I mean, I've checked you out, and so you've worked with some amazing people, and you've done some amazing things. So I had a look at the Snarky Puppy "Sing to the Moon" video this morning, and that I was thinking, you talked about fear earlier. If that was me, that would scare the shit out of me doing. For the viewer, it's one of the Snarky Puppy videos where there's 25 plus musicians. There's like 4 guitarists and then multiple keyboard players, 2 drummers, got to be 7 singers, everyone with headphones, and then there's also like maybe 100, 200 audience members, also all with headphones, lots of cameramen, women, and playing this very sort of polished music that's, I don't know, it must have been rehearsed because it's complex music with lots of stages and a lot of musicians getting a little moment to sort of shine in. And I can imagine that it could be a really fun and really, really exciting thing to do, but it could also be incredibly intimidating and terrifying to do, depending on where your head is at the time. And how was that experience for you? I've never met anyone that's been in one of those videos before, and I'm just like, wow, it's fantastic. I mean, it's a fantastic piece of music.
Yeah, I will preface this by saying, before I had any idea that that was even happening, I had a day like wandering around New York. Before I moved there, I was just visiting, and I was there for 2 weeks, and I basically had no plans. And by the end of the 2 weeks, there was like one day I was wandering around trying to find my way through like the West Village and Christopher Street and like Washington Square Park, and I just kept getting lost. And I swear to God, it was like 3 hours where I was like, I just can't find this park. And I guess I didn't have Google Maps or something, or I don't know why I was so lost. And I was listening to Sing to the Moon on repeat. And I was feeling very lost in my life. I was feeling like I didn't know what I was doing.
Before the recording.
Before the recording.
You were learning the song.
I was learning the song, and I had a very emotional experience with that song. Just feeling sorry for myself and just feeling lost. But so I just loved that song so much. So if there was anyone that I mean, Snarky Puppy and I, at that point, I had known those guys for about 6 years. Yeah. And so they're very good friends, and we've even at that point we had done some touring together, and just loved each other and feel like family. So I wouldn't say I'm not intimidated by them. They're incredible musicians, but I did feel very much like wrapped in the bosom of the Snarky Puppy family in that way. So it was less scary to be surrounded by them, and even the camera people. A lot of those people I knew, and the crew. But I got to know everyone so much better, and it was a week of rehearsals and then 3 shows or 6 shows.
One song.
A week of rehearsals for the whole record.
The whole record.
So, yeah, I don't remember how many songs were on that record, but I only had the one song. They had like however many songs with all these different artists. So every day they'd have 16-hour days, and most of that was just rehearsing. For the rest of us, we were just downstairs in the kitchen, hanging out and eating and going for walks in New Orleans during Mardi Gras.
Wow. Right.
Yeah. So it was like summer camp.
And so the 3 shows are what you see on the video. It's with the audience spread around the space.
Yeah, so they actually had 6 shows, 2 per night, and then they drew the best ones from each of those shows.
Okay. That's really smart.
Yeah, making the most of.
If there's a sort of car crash in a particular song, you just keep going, and you know that you're going to get it on another one.
Yeah.
Great. Well, the other song I want to ask you about, just as a sort of starting off, was "How Come," which looks quite recent. Michael MacDonald. I'm a bit of a Michael MacDonald fan.
Me too.
Fan. And that's it's a fantastic song. It's really brilliant. I like the whole thing.
Should we do it? I didn't add it to the set list.
Well, I'd love to do it, but it's up to you.
Let's do it.
First question. The lyrics could be about a personal
better. Oh, okay.
What?
I said a bit better.
Oh, no. Yeah, I thought the second stanza was a little bit,
weak.
I'm not that kind of person. And anyway, it's great. It's wonderful. The lyrics could be about a personal relationship that's moved on, or it could be about a musical relationship that's moved on. And sometimes those two things are kind of intermingled. I presume it's quite personal, but is it about? Can you tell us a bit about the lyrics and how you
Yeah, it's actually about a friendship.
Right.
Um, and honestly, I mean, that song, I often joke from the stage, like, this is what happens when I have a bottle of wine to myself on a long night. Um, but it's there's like a lot of ways where that song was kind of self-pitying, like, why don't you call me anymore? Why aren't we friends? Um,
Yeah, but the thing is, it's a feeling that everybody has. So the
yeah.
fact that someone's written a song about it is brilliant, because a lot of people won't write a song about that for that reason. But I think it's brilliant that you did, and the fact that you made such a great piece of music out of it makes it even better.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for writing that song.
Well, I think what saves it is that outro and like that feeling of like, you know what? It's all good. Like, you're fine, I'm fine. We're both doing what feels like what we should be doing. Let's just let things go.
The person you wrote it about, do they know it's about them?
No.
Ah, that's, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder if they wonder.
I wonder too. I don't, yeah, maybe. I don't know. It, I have in the past I mean, there are a number of songs that I've written for people that I did tell them, and some people where it felt a little too raw for me and for them to tell them. And
Yeah, there's song I wrote called "You're a Fucking Asshole and I Fucking Hate You," which I never told the person. I'm just kidding.
Do me a favor and listen to, and to anyone who ends up watching this, James Shipp, "I Don't Like You."
Oh,
it's a fucking great song.
Wow. Okay.
James Shipp, it has two P's, SHIPP.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious I'm taking up a lot of your time, and this is it's great talking to you. I'm interested to know how you've moved to Scotland.
Yeah.
So what can you talk us through that move?
Yeah.
How long have you been here? And why did you come here? How long have you been here? How's it kind of working out so far?
So I came here on a trip with my mom 2 years ago and was here for about 3 weeks, and I was really burning out in New York and in the music business in general. I was just like, it's not working. Like, it's not working on a lot of levels, what I'm doing with my life. And
the music business isn't working
in general. Yeah.
It's fucked.
Yeah, and New York has my favorite people on the planet all wrapped into it. It's full of so many people that I love. But the actual like business and like motion of New York, in terms of just like the stuff that most people would say they don't subscribe to, but you just can't like escape it, is just this incessant obsession with individuality and success and busyness and not having enough money or time to see your friends, and being exhausted. And I was just and then on like a personal front, I was just like, I just don't want to live here anymore. And I know that I never planned to live here my whole life. I don't want to become a citizen. So what am I doing? Like, when's the time? It may as well be now. And I came to Scotland on a trip, just like my mom and I have 3 siblings and a bunch of cousins. I have a big family, and I've never went on a trip just with my mom.
Okay.
So we had been planning to try and do that, and we came to Scotland. We had, of course, like 7 generations back. There's like Scottish ancestry.
Ancestral home.
Yeah. So we did that. We went all over Scotland, and we also met with this woman named Emily Gowan, who was my mom's fiddle teacher online. And my mom had been learning fiddle, and Emily lives in Dunoon. And mom was like, we can't go to Scotland and not meet my fiddle teacher, who I've been studying with for 2 years. So we did that. I fell in love with the Goans, with Emily and her whole family. They're just like incredible people who really live in a way that I was like, that's some shit that I would like to attach myself to, like that makes sense to me. The way they're living makes sense. And I was at this place where I just didn't know what to do to make the step to make these changes. I knew that I needed to make big changes. So I connected with them. We had some great chats. I came back to Scotland in January. I decided to stop everything that I was doing. At the time, I was uh, doing rehearsals for a play on Broadway, a musical on Broadway called Hadestown, which just actually opened up.
Mitchell.
Yeah, Anais Mitchell. Yeah, that's right.
She's amazing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful musical. I really love it. I loved working with Hadestown, but it wasn't enough work. I was just one of several people who was doing accompanying rehearsals and things. I stopped everything I was doing and I came to Mull. I did a trade with a woman who had a space that I could do writing in and live for a month. And in return, I helped her produce some demos that she was working on, that she was reconnecting with songwriting. So that was an amazing thing. I got to spend a month on Mull and just let go of a bunch of shit and get back to what I loved, which was writing songs and making demos and being in nature. And from that, I met some musicians. I recorded some music there with Gordon McLean. Yeah,
Gordon very well.
Yeah,
and did you hear any Martin Bennett while you were there?
I didn't. No.
He check him out. He's an amazing Scottish musician who died really young, and his last few years he lived on Mull, and he worked in Gordon's art centre. He had this sort of little room where he mixed his last album, and he mixed together traditional music and electronica and sort of classical music, and he was a piper and a fiddler, but he had a very strong connection to Mull, and his funeral was in Calgary Bay on Mull.
My God.
And he's buried there, and so that Mull, to me, Mull's kind of like this place where Martin is, as much as anything. It's not just that, but that's for me where
where his spirit exists.
Was a big part of Martin's later years,
I think Gordon is a big part of a lot of people's musical growth, and I did
an album there with Dave Milligan. I don't know if you know Dave, but he's a really wonderful player. It was called Shops, and we had his commission to write a song for like 7 shops on the front of Mull, of Tobermory, and so there was the hairdressers, and then there's this Tackling Books, and then there was a hardware store. And for some reason, it was kind of it was slightly before smartphones really were ubiquitous, but we didn't video it, which we played each song in each shop, and for some reason didn't video it, and I don't know why, but anyway, it's a great place. Best fish. Well, the fish and chip van.
Yeah, I think the fish and chip van. You were talking about the one that's on the furthest end of the pier. Yeah. I haven't been to that one because I was there in January, so obviously nothing was open. But I just spent a lot of time at Tackling Books, and there's a new fish and chip van, or there was at least last summer.
So we've got a song called Tackling Books. In fact, I wrote it myself.
Very cool.
So where do you live now? And so you came here and you sort of had this experience with your mum, then you came back, and at what point? And are you sort of? Do you know if you're here just for a break or if you're here permanently? You don't know.
So that was last January, and then I was like, "This is great. I love it here. This feels like it's, we have these moments in our life where nothing makes sense, and then you see a light bulb that it's like that makes sense. I don't know why, but I'll go towards that because fucking everything else is dark. So I'll go towards that light bulb, and that for me was being here and meeting the Goins. And so I came back for the summer. I was on Mull in January, and then I went back to the States. I did a little tour and some shows, and then I came back in May, and I spent 5 months here, living with them in Ellen, just next to Dunoon, and loved it. Played some shows. I played the Isla Jazz Festival, which was really wonderful of them to have me, and that introduced me to some more musicians. That's where I heard Matt Carmichael for the first time. And
Yeah, I was actually there,
Fergus.
but we didn't cross
Oh, you're
paths.
kidding.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was playing different gigs to you, so
right.
you know.
Yeah, that was super cool because I just got to meet some more of the jazz scene, and I just was like, this is it. I don't even know work-wise how it's going to work out. I have a passport because I was born in England.
Okay,
My dad was British, but he died when I was very young.
right.
So I was born in England, and so I had the passport. So actually, moving here and living and working here is easier than it is for me to do so in the States. Um,
From
and
Canada, yeah,
I'm
right.
from Canada, yeah. So it was like I wouldn't say it was a no-brainer. It's taken me from, the first trip till January of this year when I flew back and made it permanent to really like take the leap. But it was a lot of question asking. But in the end, I was like, I know that it's time for me to leave New York. I know I'm not ready to move back to Canada, so why not? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
especially with the passport, it just makes it so much easier to live and to have healthcare and to have, a better quality of life for less money. Even my phone bill alone was like always around $130 US per month. It's now £10 a month. I would say rent is not that different. I mean, I live in Edinburgh, so rent isn't super
Edinburgh's quite
cheap.
expensive, yeah. So
Yeah.
I live in Pathhead, which is just south of
Okay.
Edinburgh, but it's like a musical enclave of.
Ah, that's right. That's where Tom and his wife live too, right?
Yeah, well, they live across the road from me. I'm across the road from them.
Hilarious.
There's
Oh,
like
that's
Lee
great.
Polworth lives here, and Dave Milligan and Karina Hewitt. Rachel Samani just moved here recently, and
Oh, no
there's a lot
kidding.
of really good. I mean, there's a few jazz musicians like myself and
Yeah,
Tom and my sister, but the majority are traditional musicians that are making their own. Martin Green, Inga Thompson, and from Martin Green from Lao, and
right. Oh, yeah. Great
so
guy.
it's kind of cool. It's like
That's great to know.
it's a little republic of music, you know.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out where people are because I just don't feel the pulse yet. I haven't, but I don't go out. I don't spend money. I just like avoid spending money at all costs, which is terrible
Well,
for
there's some
my.
incredible singers here, so yeah, you should maybe come and hang out and meet Kayla Rowan, do you know, from Sugar Nifty, and she's just bought a
No,
house. She's a Galaxy singer. She's amazing. So like,
cool,
there's like 5 or 6 really amazing singers just in this little village. So, uh,
amazing.
well, listen, that it's really fascinating actually, because I think I'm sort of 57, so and on this series of interviews, I've talked to a bunch of Scottish jazz musicians in their 20s who are kind of blowing up right now, and they're sort of looking ahead at their career. And I've talked to some guys that are in their 50s and 60s about their career, and where you are is fascinating because it's like it's really sounds wonderful. The choices you're making sound very positive, and you've had this incredible career so far, and I'm sure it will continue to be like that.
Thank you.
And but with a sort of Scottish twang to it, which is kind of wonderful. I mean, because Playtime, there's 4 of
Yeah,
us, and Mario is this beautiful spirit from Brazil that he got brought here by the winds of the universe. God knows, and I
yeah,
go, why the hell are you here?
yeah.
It's not for the weather, and it's not for the food, you know. But anyway, he was brought here like 25 years ago, and it's been wonderful having him around. So, and yeah, there is a very rich musical world here. It's not that easy to make a living from just gigs and things like that, but
Of course.
the mixture of traditional music and jazz and classical music, the musicians actually know each other here, which is unusual, I think. In places like
Yeah,
London, people just don't necessarily cross paths from different.
yeah. I really
Whereas,
like that. I've noticed that both traditional music and jazz, everyone seems to know each other.
and there's a lot of mutual respect and interest, and
Yeah.
kind of exploring. So And in a sense, we're all kind of in the same boat. It's not like that, you know, in terms of making it all work financially, everyone's got to juggle things a bit, but try and do the thing that keeps them happy, you know, musically. And then there might be a bit of teaching and a bit of, you know, I know someone that repairs boilers as part of his.
I'm going to go bartend in the next 20 minutes.
It's the thing that you do that sort of makes the thing work here.
Yeah.
So, anyway, you're coming to Playtime, so what's your plans for us? What are you going to do to us?
Well, I just sent Mario the set list yesterday, and I did give him a piece of music that I never do live. I did it for the live record, but it's a sort of open, kind of breathy vocal thing over a set of changes that sort of repeats on and on. But time-wise, it's pretty fluid.
Is that the first track on your album?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. So that's great.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought that'd be a good one. And I'm just trying to, the rest of the tunes that I gave you guys, there's some new stuff that's not released. And I tried to lean more on the side of things that are less complicated form-wise and have more room for open interpretation. A lot of my tunes, it so pretentious to say, but it is sort of by design that they're like complicated to play, but they feel relaxed, like what I was saying, where they feel
they're difficult.
Yeah. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere you'd like people to go to check out your music in particular?
You're on Spotify. Fuck Spotify. Excuse my language. But yeah, you can go on Apple Music. It's not that different, but or Bandcamp. I have everything on Bandcamp.
Right. Okay. Bandcamp is the place.
Type my name into Bandcamp. Yeah.
And it's pronounced Michelle. Just get that right, people, when you're typing it in.
Yeah, get the pronunciation right when you type it. Make sure that's.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks a lot for making the time, and
thank you, Tom.
I'll see you next week.